Live. Guru Nation, this is a special event sponsored by CRIO, right? CRIO's at DIA right now, talking about probably this very thing, which is how to increase participation in clinical research from a study participation level, from a workforce development level. We've got members of Latinos in clinical research on, Black women in clinical research. We've got someone from Yuma Clinical Trials that actually uses CRIO on a daily basis. That's why I had Daisy come on. And we can just get into like a conversation on the differences, the similarities between the different minorities that do participate in research from a study participation perspective and from a workforce development perspective. So let's just go around real quick. Everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the first topic. Ashley, Margot.
All right, yeah. Name's Ashley Margo, one of the co-founders of Latinos in Clinical Research in the University of Clinical Research, and very soon to be sponsor CRA. So, yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Sponsor side. And then how about you, Daisy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Daisy. I'm a clinical research coordinator at Yuma Clinical Trials. I started back in January of this year, so about 6-7 months now, and yeah, I'm enjoying everything, the whole process, learning a lot of information, and working with Dan is always fun.
I'm gonna
Never
do
a
a
dull moment.
advertisement here. Daisy is a former student from the CRC Academy too.
That's right.
Yes.
And a member of Latinos in Clinical Research.
Yes.
Occasionally she comes in. Judy Galindo?
Yes, hi everyone. So Judy Galindo, also co-founder of Latinos in Clinical Research, University Clinical Research Circle, but I'm also a site co-owner, executive director of Sun Valley Research Center, located in a large Latino community in Imperial County, California.
Monica Cuitiva.
Okay, my name is Monica Cuitiva. I'm one of the co-founders of Latinos in Clinical Research, the Clinical Research University, the Clinical Research Circle, and also a co-owner of Clarity Clinical Research in Los Angeles, California.
And last but not least, Jasmine Barnes.
Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine Barnes. I am a CRA2 at a CRO, and I am the brand ambassador leader for Black Women in Clinical Research and based in North Carolina.
Yay!
Thank you guys. Maybe the first thing we'll talk about, because we have minority groups on, Latinos and African Americans. Let's talk about DCT guidance, okay? It was recently released. The whole purpose of this, at least on the surface, we can get into the real reason. There's a lot of theories. But on the surface, no one can argue. It's to increase the diversity, and really the selling point is access to clinical research through some tools and technology that are developed or are developing. Do you guys think that this is something that is working?
No,
No.
definitely not.
All right, and why? Let's get into those reasons.
So I think I would say, on my perspective, being a site co-owner and seeing, working on various trials, children, adolescents, adults, outpatient studies, we have used electronic diaries, patient-reported outcome measures electronically, different things like that, I guess, to that extent for patients, caregivers, and they don't seem to work well. Something's wrong with the technology, something's wrong with the device. Maybe there's an internet issue, it's not uploading, it doesn't sync. And so it's more of a burden on the participant, the family, the caregiver, and our site staff to figure this out and to get the information we need. And we spend a lot of time. And if they're not completing it, if they miss these entries, then it's just easier, honestly, to give them a piece of paper and have them do it on a piece of paper that we can collect at each visit. That's my perspective. That's our experience. I think with all the technology out there, we haven't found the easiest way that these systems can be used with participants. We're still giving participants another device, like another phone or another diary on top of what they already have. Why can't they just download an app? I know with some studies they have that, but most studies it's like an additional item they have to carry. So it just makes it harder for them to do that.
And more patient burden.
Mhm.
What about you, Jasmine? What do you think? Is the DCT tech stuff working?
I agree with Judy on this one. In my experience, a lot of times the patients, something ends up happening with the technology, or if we give them, like, let's say, a paper document that gets lost or, thrown in the trash. So I feel like, again, we have to figure out how to make it simpler but also useful, because technology is a great thing, but on the flip side, there's a lot of issues that come with it that we can't naturally resolve as quickly. Like if the device freezes up, we can't do anything about it on our end, so it has to be escalated to somebody.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. We'll get to it right now. Hannah Kulkarni, welcome from CRIO. My apologies for not sending you the link. I sent it to Stephanie, who's in DIA right now.
No
That's why
worries.
she's
Thanks
not
for
on.
getting
So,
me added.
you want to introduce yourself, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Hannah Kulkarni. I am one of the senior CSMs at CRIO. I'm super excited to be here. I'm sorry I'm late and missed the first few minutes.
My fault. But okay,
Bueno.
so I have a meme for this, but I have like some angry thoughts about this as well. So the DCT guidance that just got published, it didn't just get published, like it didn't fall out of the sky. Like people wrote it. People, I'm assuming, picked other people's brains. I hate that term, but I'm guessing that's what happened. A consortium of unnamed people wrote it and submitted it. Did you guys, anyone from Black Women in Clinical Research, get contacted for their input on DCT guidance?
Not to my knowledge. So I'm going to say
Okay, that's not surprising. And then LICR, anyone?
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly asking for dramatic effect. I don't expect yes. So that's my whole point. Is like the same people, they're pushing this guidance. The goal is diversity. Wouldn't it be good to get like opinion of someone
From the diverse groups
from the
that
groups? It's
exist.
not like
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
hiding. Black
Yeah.
women in clinical research is not hiding. Latinos in clinical research are not hiding. You see them. I see you guys on the LinkedIn feed all the time. So I just find that interesting. But tech is important. Like there are tools that we use. CRIO, we use every day. E-consent and various things like that that CRIO provides that helps the workforce out. It helps the efficiencies, but it really doesn't do anything at like from a macro level when it comes to increasing access to clinical research. Like that's not really CRIO's job. CRIO's job is to make site work easier. But these DCT tools are like pushing out into the community, but they're not really getting feedback from the users of it or the target market.
Yeah.
What that tells me is that they have been creating all of this without thinking about the community in reality. They have been creating this thinking about their own technology or their own little, well, this is gonna sound a little bit harsh. Maybe the little bubble that they have,
Yeah.
and they need to go outside that bubble to make it more achievable, I guess, or more easy for the communities out there if the intention is truly to bring diversity and give more or expand the opportunity to reach people that otherwise would not have access to this. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake, the approach or that they have been thinking about. I mean, obviously this is only assuming in regards to what the guidelines that were released.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd like to say that based on your first question, Dan, about why not DCT? What not working with it? I mean, I think one of the biggest issues is just the fact that it comes back to the minority groups, at least the minority groups that have language barriers, right? We still just on the basis of research have those issues already. Just still have those issues with just patient recruitment, translation documents, like just what we've been having for right now. And this is prior to this boom with technology. So it's hearing that, knowing that they've already formulated all this, and they haven't even reached out to minority groups such as Black women in clinical research, especially them, because you guys have been around, I think, a year or 2 years longer than LICR. So it is upsetting to hear these kinds of things because they say why reinvent the wheel, but in this case the wheel needs to be reinvented because the initial one has a lot of gaps, issues, and errors. And this is the whole reason why we have this huge boom of diversity that all these companies are jumping on board, because we're all seeing and we're all acknowledging that there are issues there. So the fact that this gets moved forward, completely disregarding this past 2-3 year movement, it's very upsetting.
Yeah, there's some tech like CRIO. I mean, it is like sponsored by CRIO, but I'm a huge fan. Myself and Daisy use it on a daily basis. This actually came up today. I was going to get Hannah's thoughts, but we're thinking about opening a clinic in San Luis, Arizona, which is 30 minutes away from us, literally on the border. Like, you can throw a rock to the border. And CRIO, one of our PIs is in Yuma, but there's a nurse practitioner in San Luis, and he can have oversight because of CRIO. Like, he doesn't have to leave his desk. So that's an example of a technology that is increasing access, but it's not something you think about. And we didn't necessarily need guidance for this from the FDA. Like, it's just source documents. So these are like other tech vendors out here trying to make money or raise investment capital, but they're not even getting the input of the community that they're supposedly trying to serve. Sound like they're just serving themselves. What do you think about this, Hannah?
I agree. I think it's great to have these technologies that enable sites to do remote monitoring visits and go to other places to complete those visits. Like you mentioned, CRIO has e-consent. We have a remote version of e-consent, so we're creating other opportunities for sites to achieve these goals, right? With the FDA guidelines, I was reading through both of those documents, and from my understanding, it kind of sounded like the FDA is providing all of these outlines and recommendations and guidelines for sponsors and sites to follow. But from my understanding, when I was reading all of the comments and the responses from other sponsors, other sites, other organizations, there was kind of a lot of pushback in the sense of, on the sponsor side, it's like they were looking for more examples of exactly what the FDA wants, but the site is more looking for representation in those sites, in the staff at the site, right? So making sure that they're gaining the trust of their physicians so that they can then gain the trust of their patients and their subjects. That's what's going to allow them to enroll higher, diverse patient numbers in those studies. So with these technologies like CRIO, we also enable sponsors to see successful sites having those high diverse enrollment numbers in their studies, right? We can provide reports showcasing those successful sites, and sites who do this successfully, they're going to be setting that standard and that bar, saying, look, we successfully enrolled all of these diverse patients. We did X, Y, and Z to get there. And now we're using, platforms like CRIO to help showcase that success.
Jasmine, what do you think from a career perspective? Because Black women in clinical research really is focused around increasing access as career option. Do you think that's a strategy for ultimately increasing study participation amongst patients?
Can you repeat the last part of the question? I wasn't following the last part.
Yeah, like, do you think that if more people work in research from a minority backgrounds, that it's easier to get more patients from those same backgrounds in the studies?
I don't think it's necessarily easier, but I do think it helps and makes a difference to know, like, when you go into an office or a hospital and, the physician is talking about a trial, but you see someone that looks like you that will be working with you. I think it does make a difference, and also provides a bit of just comfort knowing that you're not alone. It's not just the average, like, Caucasian male just taking your samples and running away with it.
Yeah, or doing the consent, like persuading someone to do a study. That's no easy feat, regardless of background and whether they're the same background or not.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing goes for Latinos as well, especially the language, right? When you hear about somebody comes in and they're bilingual, but they're more predominantly speaking Spanish. Some people prefer speaking Spanish, even though they can speak English, right? And so I think those things are very, very important. Having the representation on all ends for all minorities is a big importance.
I think also just having that representation, they're able to connect with that patient on a different level, on like a community level, because they were one same, if you know what I mean. So I think that makes a big difference as well.
I actually pulled a quote. So one of the responses to the 2022 FDA guidelines that was presented, I pulled a quote from one of the responses that I thought it speaks volumes to this. The quote says, "The level of effort to diversify enrollment must be matched by the level of effort to include more principal investigators that originate from diverse racial and ethnic communities." So that ties into exactly what we're saying, right? You know, having more diverse principal investigators involved in these trials is going to help gain the trust of all of those other communities. That way you can reach those numbers and you are being more personal in that sense, right? It's not just, you know, at the end of the day, it's not just about the money. It's not just about meeting those numbers. You want to make a difference in those patients' lives. So you want to be able to connect with them on a personal level.
Yeah, and then also the staff members in the clinics, because even if the principal investigator, let's say, speaks Spanish, but then nobody else does it, it makes it a little difficult. It has to be at least the principal investigator and the study coordinator. And then in the case of let's say the mental health, if the principal investigator is not a rater, then we're going to need also a rater that speaks Spanish. So the whole team has to reflect the community that they are serving or that they are trying to bring into the study.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. So it's not just that we want to recruit them, but you have to understand you're, in a sense, have this relationship with these people that are coming into your office from the beginning, from the time you pre-screen them to the time they come into the office, whatever language it is that you speak. They have to be comfortable enough to answer the questions that you have for them, which are very personal questions. They have to want to, you know, any questions you ask, be open to giving you that history background and the fact that they can communicate back and forth and be able to do that with the various staff at the office. If not, you're not getting the information you need. They're not going to do what they need to do in a clinical trial, and then that's going to affect our retention and so on and so on. So it's a bunch of factors, right? You need to consider. It's not just being, you know, having that presence and having certain things in the language. It's a whole other thing when you're actually working with them, talking to them, and the fact that they feel comfortable. They can reach out to you if they're not feeling well. Maybe they're having an AE, you know, get them in the office right away, things like that. And if you don't have that they're not comfortable, then you're going to be missing out on a lot of information you should be collecting during the process of their participation in a trial.
We could get into Monica's site audit and a few. We had a story from our office though. Like, I want to get into some of the differences between patient groups. Maybe like, for example, Hispanics. We had an issue at our site, Daisy. You want to share, like, sometimes there's like cultural nuances. So you can't treat all patients the same. And this is where it helps to have a diverse workforce in place. And I'll get into another story of one of my PIs, actually two of my PIs and two CRAs. It's a very interesting story, but if you want to share this, Daisy, real quick.
Yeah, pretty much we've definitely experienced differences in cultures here in this side in Yuma clinical trials. There's a lot of Latinos here, so I've definitely noticed that difference. You know, we tend to be more involved, or having our family involved in all of our decisions and in everything, right? In a lot of things. So it can be kind of difficult to know how to navigate that when we have a patient here, a subject here, and, you know, we tell them about the study, everything that the study involves, and, you know, they might get cold feet. They might say, you know what, let me talk to my sister, let me talk to my mom, let me talk to my dad. And um, you know, it's a pretty difficult and obviously underserved community. Um, they might find you know, reasons from their religion, like, you know, this doesn't sound like it's a good thing, you know. So it's kind of difficult, and it's of course good to have a more diverse workforce, like Dan said. I think that really helps.
It's helpful, and also from the CRA. So we actually have 3 PIs right now. It's there's a Caucasian, we have an African American, he's a dermatologist, and we have an Indian American. And it was funny because I never really noticed these things, but we've had there's a lot of diverse CRAs, right? Like CRA, I think that's one of the careers where there is some diversity and like there's been improvements. Maybe because of groups like Black Women in Research, Latinos in Clinical Research, like we've been getting the word out. They have been hiring more diverse candidates there. It's just interesting, like observing when we had African American CRA come meet our PI. She wasn't expecting an African American PI. His name's Dr. Harris. So it could be anything, right? When she saw him, I saw her face change. Like, wow, like there's someone else that looks like me that's a PI. Like, you can tell she was just used to seeing the same kind of face over and over. Same thing with our Indian. We have an Indian psychiatrist who's a PI. We had an Indian. It wasn't a CRA, but it was a guy who came to set up the tech, and it's for a study. And he was like, "Is Illyria Indian?" And he's like, "Hey, I know he left, but can you FaceTime him real quick? Like, I want to just talk to him." So I put him on the phone. They got the FaceTime. That's where I saw like it does matter. We think, hey, it doesn't really matter. It does matter a little bit. It's not as dramatic as having a patient, but it was still something that I think is a good thing to come out of all this.
Yeah, we experienced something similar then because my PI is Persian and he speaks Farsi, but he also speaks Spanish and Vietnamese. And
Ah,
people don't know that, right? So one day, one patient, she was getting her rating skills in English, but then he noticed that she was having some trouble with the communication, and then he said, "Do you want me to explain you this also in Farsi?" And she was very surprised, and she really liked it. But obviously, we went back to the sponsor and asked them if there were a possibility to do that specific rating scale in Farsi, and unfortunately, that was not the case, right? Um, but that makes such a big difference when it comes to the patients because obviously even if you speak fluent English, when it comes to to your health, speaking in your mother language makes you more comfortable and probably and obviously more fluent of expressing everything you really feel. So and I think until you experience that, you're not gonna really understand the importance of it, or until you see it, and that's probably the case with many organizations because they don't get to taste this firsthand, and that's the thing with the sites. The sites experience that firsthand, and obviously the CRAs too, because the CRAs are very connected to the sites and understand that quite well.
I agree. How did your site audit go that you had recently? I know you
We
wanted to
had
get some.
it went amazing. It went really,
Do you
really,
use
really
CRIO?
well.
I'll put you on the spot. Do you use CRIO?
I have used it in the past.
Ah,
I have used it in the past. I know
do
how
you
it
use
works.
eSource or just paper right now?
We switched to eSource now.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it makes it easier because it makes it easier for many factors. Like, for example, in the case that you receive, let's say, laboratories right now, and the principal investigator is not available, but you suspect there is something uh, out of the range that could be potentially an adverse event, and you want the principal investigator to see it right away. That's a great way to do it, and then they get to also, I mean, review it and declare if it's NCS or CS, right? So in those situations, I think I mean, and in every situation, because if you talk about also Quad-C, there is nothing better than the electronic services to keep this in the spot in line, right? So I like it. It's a transition. It can be sometimes painful because obviously you're used to one thing and then transferring everything to a new technology. But that's the case with everything, right? That the transition is always it can be always difficult, but once you complete the whole transition, then you start seeing all the benefits of it.
I wanted to get Ashley and Jasmine's take on career development as a minority. Um, is it easy? Is it difficult? What have been your experiences? And then we'll get to Judy on what tools Judy uses and her experiences. So Ashley or Jasmine, you guys want to discuss career
You go first,
development,
Jasmine. You
climbing
go
the
first.
ladder? Because we have a comment here, so let me lighten the mood with a comment. Okay, this is Patty Mendoza. She audits sites and audits like for sponsors. She's super experienced. She says she still gets stopped in hotels when auditing. That like the people are asking her, "Do you work here? Do you speak English?" So like, do you guys experience things like this, like trying to climb the career ladder? Like, can you give us like some personal experiences of your journey?
Do you want to go first, Ashley?
Okay. All right. So climbing the ladder. Well, I will say I don't know if this is the correct terminology to use, but most people think I am Caucasian, which I'm not. I'm 100% Latina. My family's from Nuevo León, which is very common that people have colored eyes and straight hair and white complexion. But, there is a change when you start speaking Spanish or, when they know that, or if they're Latino and they know you speak Spanish, immediately that connection happens. Unfortunately, I don't speak great fluent Spanish. I'm that generation of my family that kind of got cut off a little bit, but yeah. So does it help? Has it helped? I mean, I'm not going to say I've gotten favoritism for it. Obviously, I think what has helped is that when I've gone through the process of interviewing and when I've spoken, I'm very clear on the importance of diversity to me, why I'm involved in things outside of the industry, and why I feel it's important for an individual with my background, as not just as a Latina but as a female, why they should be putting me on their team, right? So all those kinds of things I do speak on, which I think every person with a background, minority background, and regardless whether you're female, male, or the LGBTQ community, I do think that you being an advocate for yourself is extremely important in order for you to move forward in the industry. And there are more people like us that are needed. But as far as moving up, I've found it quite easy. I mean, Dan, most of you here, my story. It kind of just jumped in and have been moving up quite quickly ever since. But I will say that a lot of that has to do with my work ethic, right? But I think that it's doable for anybody so long as you work hard and you advocate for yourself.
Jasmine?
I agree with Ashley, especially on the advocating part. It's important in interviews to make it clear like what you represent, what you stand for, and also kind of like what you don't tolerate either, being a minority. So I think that's important. As far as like moving up, I think once you're in, it's an easier transition. It's just the getting in part that's terrible. Like for everybody, it seems like.
Yeah.
Wasn't, I can say back then, because I joined the clinical research industry in January of 2020, it wasn't as hard and as competitive as it is like right now, but it was still tough, just like trying to network, land the first role, interview, figure out what you need to know, what you don't need to know, because you don't want to like show up to an interview not knowing anything, but you want to know something. So I mean, the landing the first role is, I would say, is the hardest part, but once you're in, it's almost smooth selling to a degree. You still have to work for it and network, and give it your all. But once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add something to that, Dan.
Yeah.
I One thing that could make a difference is if you have an accent, like I do. That can actually be is a double sword um, knife, because it can go really well because they say, oh, she has a very cute accent, or it can go to the opposite. Then they say, well, I'm not sure if her English is good enough to be competitive in this specific job, or if she's gonna be or he's gonna be as good as somebody that speak fluent. I mean, not fluent, without accent.
Mhm.
So in my case, has been both. The majority of the time, I've been very lucky, because like Judy, like Ashley and Jasmine were saying, I was advocating a lot for myself, but um, but that can be something that can be holding some people, preventing them to achieve better opportunities. And I will say this for a lot of the IMGs that are incredibly smart. They have a really incredible background. They are already doctors. It doesn't matter where they graduated from, if it's in China or if it's in South America, they're still doctors, right? And because sometimes, because they have accents, they probably get the door closed even before they can start it. So I think the industry needs to think about this too, because as it is, we still have shortage, especially for example at the sites. We have a lot of shortage of CRCs, and this can prevent people from entering to the industry if not given an opportunity. And then on the other hand, um, this is brains that we really need in the industry too. So it's something that we should be thinking about. Not to mention that the majority of the time, even though that we have shortage, there's still a lot of jobs that are supposed to be entry level, requiring 2 years experience. And obviously, where are they going to get those 2 years experience if nobody gives them opportunities?
Mhm.
These are really good points. I think one of the complaints we hear a lot, and as a Caucasian male, I mean, I don't think about too much, but when I talk about, okay, well, the workforce is getting more diverse, people tell me, yeah, but at a certain level, it just becomes white males. So I'm guessing the group that wrote the FDA guidance for DCT, I don't know if there was female representation. Hannah, do you know anything about this? Who wrote this thing?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. I do not know the exact people who wrote that, actually. I wondered
We're
the
trying to
exact
find it. We're trying to find it.
Is there a way to find out? I mean, shouldn't that be made public?
Isn't
Bonus
it on the
points
I
document?
agree with that. I think it should be made public.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
you
It
should
wouldn't
know who's
say
holding
because
the
it's the. It would be officially drafted by the FDA, but somebody like worked. There was a group outside the FDA that worked with them to get it drafted.
I would like to
Who?
know who that is. I would like to know.
Look at
Yeah.
the C-suite. Well, anyway, that's a topic for another day. Maybe bonus extra credit for a CRC Academy student that can figure it out.
Ooh.
Tell Evelyn, Daisy Evelyn, if she's still there behind you, she's in the new class. If she's still there, that's her
Yes.
homework.
She left already.
Oh, she left. All right. Accent. This is Robert Goldman. Accent, as enumerated by Monica Quitiva, is a great mountain to climb. Someone else said FDA is super diverse, especially the project teams assigned to INDs. Yeah, they're super diverse, but like at the decision making level is the complaints I get too. Because when I look at my CRAs, Judy, Monica, Daisy, you guys work at sites. Jasmine, you work at a CRO. Like it's pretty diverse, the workforce.
Mm.
But the complaints I get, like the pushback I get when I bring this up is, yeah, but go higher up. Like go to the people that you don't hear from. That's the ones where like change is not happening, and maybe that's the real reason why we're not seeing the change on the guidance and things like that. I don't know.
I hear that from a very popular CRA that we interviewed one day too. She has a PhD and she was trying to climb farther, but she couldn't. in some point she was like she hit the top of in her ladder, right? So
Do you think
yeah,
that's going to change?
I think it's gonna change, and I have seen it. This is gonna sound off topic, but I have seen it even in the movies. If you go right now to the movies and you see the newest, let's say, superhero movies, now they are introducing more African Americans, more Hispanics as the superheroes too, right? So I think naturally everything is Hollywood has an impact in everything. So I think it's gonna have an impact in the rest of the industries. I was surprised. I saw Flash this weekend, and the Superwoman is Colombian. Then I saw also uh, um, what's the name of this? Well, another movie, superheroes, and then the two main characters, one is Hispanic and the other one is African American. So I was thinking,
Spider-Verse is Patty.
yeah, exactly. So it's showing that there. So naturally, everything is gonna be start doing it because it's the community that is out there. It's not something that we just. It's not just a trend. It's the reality out there. The communities are just turning even more diverse. In some point, everybody in their family is gonna have one member that is from either or these communities. So this needs to be reflected out there.
So I think there's been change. I mean, from what I've seen, when it comes to like the new departments that they're making for diversity, right? I mean, they're bringing on diversity heads that are different, which is great, right? But I would like to see like, you know, the
But what
clinic.
are they doing? Like, what
Well,
are
that's
they
the
doing?
thing. That's the thing. Like, you know, obviously, unless you're in that role, you really don't know to what extent. I mean, there is one company. I mean, I'm not going to say the name, but we've worked along with them, and they're doing amazing work. So I do feel that there is exceptions to some companies that are
Nah, I
actually.
know who. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I do. I do think there's exceptions to where, you know, it's not just them having a department that shows diversity. They're actually like walking the talk. In their case, they're running it, right? They're really doing amazing things very fast. But for the most part, a bunch of other companies, CRO sponsors, I haven't seen anything. And on the ClinOps leaders, and even further than that, I haven't seen any change. It's just within that space of, oh, well, this is our new diversity leader. It's okay, great. But to what extent are you allowing that
To what
person?
extent? Yeah, it kind of
Yeah, letting
echoes
that person in, right? I
it
mean,
kind of echoes the DCT stuff. Like, you know, the purpose is, at least on the surface, like, let's increase access to clinical trials. Judy, I know you're very passionate about this. We got to get your thoughts on this, and then Hannah as well. Do you think technology not could, because we know it could, but do you think it will play a role in increased access for minority groups? And the Jasmine also, maybe.
So I mean, that's a very broad question, so I'm not sure exactly like how it's increasing
Is it
diversity.
possible? Is it possible?
Well, how exactly is it going to increase more minority participation in clinical research if the site, those involved in the study, aren't making an effort to target that patient population and recruit and actually have all that in place to be able to work with those patients? So maybe the technology could exist, but if you don't have everything else in place, then you're not going to get those minority patients. So I don't know. I mean, I guess in a sense, if you're talking about like recruitment agencies or something like that, where they're targeting minority patients, pre-screening them, getting, you know, anything, possibly. I haven't seen it yet. 16 years working in the Latino community. I have yet to work with a central recruitment campaign or vendor that knows how to recruit Latino patients yet. And that's a question I have for every single one when I do talk to them. If there is one, I haven't worked with them. They can't even answer that question when I do ask. How successful are they with recruiting Latino patients? They don't have data on that, or the ones I've spoke to don't have data. So I'm not sure. I can't really answer that, but I think there is technology that can assist with that as long as all the other things are in place.
I completely agree, Judy. I think technology does exist to assist with this, but it's a group effort, right? It's not just going to be one tech vendor. It's not just one tech vendor that's going to solve the whole overarching issue. It's a group effort between the FDA, the sponsor, the site, and the vendor, right? Everyone needs to be coming together to reach that end goal, right? At CRIO, we have all of these reports and we have a recruiting module where you can sort through your patient database to find different patients from different backgrounds in different locations and all of the things, right? But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to one, the FDA providing the clarity to the sponsors to then write the protocols to then tell the sites, those groups that need to be included in the trials and how they can achieve getting those groups included in those trials. The technology is there, but we need to have, the sites, the sponsors, the FDA, all parties involved working together as one versus fighting and combating each other to try to get to the top. It's never going to work that way. Everyone needs to kind of come together and move as one force rather than everybody trying to do so many different things at once.
Jasmine, anything from CRO side as far as tools helping sites recruit minorities better, more effectively, I guess?
Again, I think the technology is a good start, but it isn't the end all be all. We still have to get out there and like show our faces and actually build relationships. Because to say, oh, we have like, I don't know, like maybe we'll get on TikTok and do something and that brings someone in, but that can't be the like end all be all. We still have to build the relationship and continue the relationship and know like the guidance from the FDA, the sponsor, and at the site level are all on the same page. Because I mean, I can't just say, oh, we need to recruit this population. This is how we do it, but the sponsor says something completely different. So having all of us in the same alignment definitely helps.
Yeah, I think we have Patty says sites need to speak up too.
Yes.
We have SOS conference, saveoursites.com. This is what we're gonna do. I was gonna say, why don't sites have a voice in passing or drafting FDA guidance recommendations? Same thing with minority groups.
Yep.
Like
100% done because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are in contact with those patients. We know how things work, what works, what doesn't.
Right.
Obviously, having that human interaction is still important, even though the technology, right? So
and oftentimes it's the low tech stuff that works. Like me and Daisy, Judy, Monica, we all work at site. Sometimes it's something simple like get the patient something to drink if they just had, or if they're gonna have a blood draw. Like how low tech is bringing them some water or like bringing them a sandwich if they've
Or
been fasting.
a simple text message, right? A simple text message to back and forth. That's easy to do. That helps a lot. But actually, I wanted to talk about what Monica said, is that it doesn't matter what technology, what vendors are out there. If the thing that brings a patient into the office is a human person. It's a human person reaching out to all these referrals or in the community or whatever, getting that patient to come into the office. They're having this conversation, whether it's in person, over the phone. So we can throw all the tech you want at the sites and all these facilities, but if you don't have the staff that are maximizing that tech the way it's supposed to be, following up, pre-screening, then you're not going to get those patients in. So if you're missing that component or there's like gaps in that areas, then all that tech is not going to help, because if you're not doing what you need to do at the site with the sponsors, vendors. So that's something we need to consider too, is that it still takes a human to use all this tech to talk to the patient, to get them to the site.
Well, this comment from Michael maybe helps. There's no technology. We have to start by going out to the communities, churches, barbershops, tell them what the trials are, tell them what cancer or other diseases are. It's setting up booths at fairs, simple awareness. I agree. But I know sites, Judy, Monica, Daisy, we know sites that are afraid because we consult for a lot of sites. They ask us, is it okay? Do we need IRB approval to go to a church and talk about studies? And we never get guidance on that. Like if you were to ask your IRB, they would say, well, it depends what material you take there. And you're never going to get a straight answer. So you're kind of like left to figure it out on your own based on your community. But we get guidance for all kinds of other crazy stuff. And we don't get guidance for what can we put on our website. Is it okay if we put this? I know I've been afraid to post things on our Yuma Clinical Trials Instagram because, I mean, it's technically we don't have IRB approval for this, but it's general advertising for us. It's not study specific, but if you ask an IRB, they're going to say no. But if you ask the right person, it's going to say, yeah, don't worry about it. So, I mean, we don't have guidance.
But if it's already listed on clinicaltrials.gov, it's already listed on a website they have, that's all the information you can share. You don't have to get IRB approval for that. So if it's publicly out there,
there's so much gray area though.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about, they want to go full force with technology, but yet some of the most basic things to help run the site more efficiently or the trial run it more efficiently, such as that. I mean, we should already be having those things cleared, right? There should already be clarification, very specific clarification. And if there isn't, for whatever reason, that there might be a different scenario for one particular site, get immediate clarification for that site. I've never understood why, if everybody's so goal focused to get the patients, get the trial going, get it running, why is it so hard to get the sites what they need to make sure that that happens as fast as the sponsors and CROs are wanting, right? That's where I can't wrap my head around, because I mean, it's not like either side is not wanting to move forward. So who's holding that back, right? It's one of the things that I get upset about with the industry.
I mean, I'm sure everybody here that work at the site agree with that, with those words that you just say, Ashley, because many times we have a lot of things that we want to do and we have a lot of ideas, but we have our hands tied because of this. Maybe the sponsor promised that they are going to be supporting, but then at the end of the day, when we come to with all these ideas to bring more patients, no, we already took care of that, but what are the results? Right? So I'm sure Dana and Yuri will also agree with this when it comes to when they say that they have central campaign. I have never seen a central campaign working.
I got one. Me and Daisy know one that does work. Wow. We got one that works. They don't work for sites though. We can't afford them. We're just peons. But
what condition? It's good.
Osteoarthritis of the knee. Very tough study too. Then it works.
Wow.
Well, only one in 18 years. That's a big gap between one that worked and the other ones that did not work. But yeah, I understand what you guys are saying. Yeah, it's just things like this we need to have more conversations about. I think and simple things like texting. I know that's a slam dunk or a layup for CRIO. They have a texting built into the CRIO. You can text patients through there. Shameless plug for CRIO. Judy, do you use eSource, eReg? I forgot to ask you.
Yes. So I use a different vendor who I won't mention, but we implemented electronic regulatory several years ago, way before COVID, and then we transitioned to eSource December 2020, so the year of COVID. And it's been extremely helpful. We can cut back on the paper we're using. It's web-based, so anybody can access it throughout the office. We're actually in the process of working with other doctors at their clinics, and we can set them up with our system if they want to refer patients within our system, or if they end up working as a sub-buy and they're going to be doing certain things for visits, it's easy for them to use eSource. So I think that I want to say out of all the technologies, I do have to say like these clinical trial management systems that have like eSource, eReg, whatever they're called, I know ours is CTMS and has that incorporated, have probably been the most effective thing for sites out of all the technologies, because it allows us to do more and cut back on other things, but then also be able to grow, expand, or whatever model or whatever you have in place for your site, right? There's a lot of people with various sites, various investigators, various locations. So I think, in my personal opinion, that's been the most effective for us.
Yeah, one thing that I like a lot about the e-technology for sites is with the regulatory, that you can set the alarms so everybody knows when their documents or their licensing or certificates are going to expire, because that's such an important part, right? Like for example, you don't want your PI to have an expired GCP, right? So those little details are so important and are part of this technology that help you tackle this and making sure that the CRC and the regulatory specialist at the site and the PI know when exactly that's going to expire, and you get to set an alarm, let's say 2 weeks before the expiration date, so you have a whole 2 weeks to make sure that happens.
Me and Daisy set those alarms. We're gonna go around and give everyone like a plug for their brands and things like that. But Daisy, they're gonna kick you out in like 30 seconds. But what have been your experiences with CRIO as a daily user?
I mean, I really like it. I was used to other types of e-source, which were also great, like RedCap, but it does not compare. It does not compare. CRIO is very intuitive. It's just very easy to use, and I'm like talking like if I'm getting paid for this. I'm totally not.
We only paid a little bit underneath the table. A little.
But I no, it's great. I really enjoy it, and I would like totally recommend it to sites. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Daisy.
Cool, Daisy. Any plugs you got going on? Just follow Daisy, everybody. Don't try to steal her from us, or don't try to poach her job recruiters.
I'm just kidding.
Her LinkedIn will be underneath. Let's go around.
I'm gonna head out.
Yeah,
out
they're
now.
gonna kick you out of there
Yeah.
soon. I know how they are.
Thanks for
5
inviting me.
o'clock, they gotta go over there. Jasmine, you got any upcoming things for Black women in clinical research, or yourself personally, or any way people can reach out to you?
You guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always up there, like always. But Black Women in Clinical Research is having our first conference in October of this year in Durham, North Carolina at the North Carolina Biotech. If interested, I can send you the link, or I'm pretty sure I'll post it again this week. If you have any questions, just let me know. It's going to be really fun. Interviews on the spot, great connections, great.
Interviews on the spot. Wow, good thing Daisy left. Go again. I can't have her go. I'm just kidding. Mock interviews. That's actually a really good idea to do,
Yeah,
like they're real interviews.
Yeah, we have some sponsors coming.
Wow.
Interviewing on the spot. So if you're looking for a job, this is the perfect time to network, and also, hopefully land that job and meet other people in the industry as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. LICR. We have SOS, CRC. Well, let's go to Ashley. You do SOS. Judy will do Latinos in Research, and
For sure.
her side, and Monica, the CRC.
So Save Our Sites conference will be not until February of 2024. Let's say maybe about 4 or 5 months after Black Women in Clinical Research Conference. But this is not just for sites, obviously for all professionals. And please, come follow our podcasts. If you haven't already followed us, Save Our Sites conference, we have one every month. The next one is July 7th. And let me get that time for you. I want to make sure we have the exact time.
4 p.m.
We have a podcast?
Yes.
Fancy.
Let me see. Ooh, we have it at 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. PST on July 7th. So we meet up every month to talk about very common issues that sites deal with, but just in general, hot topics. And from there, we do the breakdown, and ultimately every month when it comes to October and November, we're going to be utilizing all those topics to figure out what we will be speaking at that conference. We don't want it to be defined by our group. We want it to be defined by everybody outside in the community, because that's where it's at. So
I think the way the reason why that conference and why Black Women Clinical Research Conference are going to be successful is the leadership is serious about the mission and not just monetizing up to your eyeballs with fees, like the current conference going on now, by the way, which very few sites are at, I must add. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're actually not doing this. There's a bigger reason than just, hey, let's monetize something. So yeah, thank you for that, both Ashley and Jasmine. Judy, any plugs? Sun Valley Research.
Yeah, I can do Latinos in Clinical Research first. We have our monthly webinar coming up tomorrow, Wednesday the 28th, 4 p.m. PST, with Dr. Hadi Donawi. He's the owner, founder, and CEO of UPI Consultants Incorporated, but he's also, and please help me with this, Monica and Ashley, he's also the founder of
Founder, I think.
a RAB
Founder.
board.
Yeah.
RAB board of clinical research. So please, hopefully you can join us. And for Sun Valley Research Center, if anybody's looking for Latino patients, we're expanding and growing into other areas. So please reach out to me.
That's right. Monica, CRC,
Well,
one
I'm
of your
gonna
proud alumni
talk.
just left, Daisy.
Yes. I'm going to talk about the university as a whole. We have
Okay.
many classes. We have the CRC Academy, we have the CRA Academy, we have data management on the making, and we also have the Clinician Academy, the CTA Academy. All of the classes are very comprehensive, very practical. And the most beautiful part of this is that you're just not getting the classes, right? You're getting also our commitment to you. The majority of our students, I will say at least 60 to 70% of our students are from diverse background, a lot of African American and a lot of Hispanics in class. We have also a lot of European students. So if you are looking for diversity, we have it. And but obviously, like I was mentioning before, the majority of these students have an amazing background, but they truly need entry level positions. So we should make the industry more open for these professionals that could probably, um, I mean, not probably, I'm sure, with all these fresh perspectives, we can improve the industry in many different areas.
And Clarity Clinical Research, audit proof.
And
Audit proof.
yes, Clarity Clinical
Enough
Research,
said.
and we specialize in mental health and located in Los Angeles, just in a very diverse area, just like Cuties and dance.
Finally, last but not least, Hannah with CRIO. CRIO is amazing. I've been a fan since 2018.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all of you guys for having me on, and for everyone attending and everyone watching. Thank you guys so much. CRIO is going to be at the SCRS conference in October in Hollywood, Florida. Feel free to stop by our booths. We're all very friendly. We love to chat. Feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn, Hannah Kulkarni. And yeah, thank you guys again. This was awesome.
Like,
Awesome.
subscribe, comment, share, guys. Talk to you
LICR will
later.
also be there. Just FYI.
Oh, we are? Okay, very
Yes.
good.
October.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for going.
I'm sure Black Women in Clinical Research is gonna be there too, right?
Maybe Jasmine.
I know I won't be able to go, but I think
Ah,
so.
dang.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. Well, I'm sure we'll see you one of these conferences, Jasmine.
Hopefully, like Dan said, the conference prices are. Whew.
Guys,
Yeah.
don't get me started, guys. This is a nice panel. Peaceful. Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment, share, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.